Shalom and welcome to Foundations for Life with some Israel updates thrown in. Mike Clayton, our esteemed brother and co-host, is traveling today. And so I am putting in his place, or have invited in his place, none other than the uber esteemed Hanoch Young from Modaim, Israel. Good day
Thank
to
you,
you,
Barrett.
sir. Good day to you. How are you?
I'm, trying to roll with the punches. What can I tell you? We're living in an unbelievable era in history.
Yes, we are.
Unbelievable is the kind of word that could be used to describe so many feelings. And it's best to not even talk about it.
Okay. Got a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
And the reason I asked you, Hanoch, is I hope you would trust me enough to know that I don't have any gotchas behind the scenes. I ask because I don't know, and I want to learn.
Sure.
And I think the vast majority of our audience, we want to learn.
Fabulous.
We want to hear from Yehuda as to what you're thinking and how you're feeling and what your perspective
Great.
is. Because I mean, all you got to do is, the American media is out there. We're an open book. We're kind of hard to hide ourselves. Last week, I saw a report and I got the red alerts on my phone that there were some missiles being launched from the northern border. Now, the southern border in Gaza, we went through that not so far back.
Right.
And that was finally calmed down and dealt with to whatever measure that somebody got appeased.
Until the next time.
Until the next time. So they were not that many, but there were some that were launched from the northern border. Was that Syria or Lebanon?
Okay. They came from Lebanon.
Okay.
But it appears to be a Hamas faction, quote unquote, in Lebanon. It wasn't Hezbollah, because that would have, thrown us into a full-blown war. I don't want to say much ado about nothing, but much ado about nothing.
My question was that a trial balloon to see what response the newer government would do?
Well, they're all trial balloons. What's interesting is every single time that Hamas has sent over incendiary balloons to set fires throughout southern Israel, our government has immediately responded with either artillery shelling or airstrikes every single time.
Okay.
It's happened at least 3 or 4 times in the last few weeks. That's relatively new. Under the Netanyahu government, that didn't always happen.
So is there a change of sentiment toward the government on the streets as far as you're able to sense what little? I know everybody in Israel is different, and we talked about it before,
it's a great question. The current coalition, of which I remain cautiously optimistic, is a very fragile coalition.
Yes.
And again, I need to stress to everyone that every government in Israel has always been a coalition government. Right. We have never had one party that has a 61-seat majority. Never. Now, they've been ideologically more closer together than our current government. But in terms of defense, most Israelis are pretty much all on the same page. The artificial designation that Netanyahu, for instance, always used, right wing, left wing, no. And when it comes to defense, Israelis are pretty much aligned. Israel has a lot of challenges right now. Exclusive of defense, Our country has been mismanaged for years. So, from everything to the care of pensioners, retirees, to our health system, to our transportation, to our infrastructure, everything is being worked. And then, of course, you throw into this whole, the whole mix, the COVID situation, which 3 to 4 weeks ago, we were about 8 to 25 cases a day, and now we're over 2,000 again.
Mm.
And again, our healthcare system is a national healthcare system. Everybody gets this, we have care for everybody. What does that mean? That means in America, where people complain and they say, gee, hospitals inflate the COVID numbers because they get extra money from the government. We don't get any extra money. It's like you have to have a gallbladder operation. I was told in America, doctors love to do that, to take out your gallbladder, because it's $14,000. Here, it's nothing. I don't pay. So, I got to wait a while. But I figure when they're taking out the gallbladder, they're going to put in 6-pack abs, so I'm going to be fine.
Oh,
it's worth the exchange.
What a trade-off. That'd be awesome, dude. Now,
Yeah.
I did read a report. Let me throw this in as well at this point. I read a report this morning from Debka File about an uprising going on in Iran. Now, Shema is talking about how, in their opinion, the U.S. is going to allow Iran to develop and finally come to nuclear capability. I just saw the headline and I thought, I don't even go there. But Debka File is talking about that in Tehran and Kazakhstan, there have been water power shortages. People are back out in the streets. And as it was in 2006 in Iran, the streets are filling up with people that are calling for the downfall of the Ayatollah Khamenei. Their COVID numbers are like almost 32,000 new cases in a single day.
Yeah.
They 3,500 people hospitalized in the last 24 hours. And it looks like that there is some inner turmoil. Are you hearing anything about that in Israel?
Yeah, but I wouldn't keep my hopes up.
Well, it's interesting.
What all of us would love is if there was a regime change in Iran. Iran would become a responsible country, wouldn't sponsor world terrorism, wouldn't be, attacking everybody that they could get their hands on, from the Saudis to the Jordanians to us here in Israel to Jews worldwide. They wouldn't be a threat to America, And, in my head right now, I'm hearing, if you wish upon a star. Da, 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 da.
Oh,
anyway, yeah. Lord have mercy. Bless his heart. That boy should not be singing.
Yeah, sounds like
I know.
There's some sin in that camp over there, bro.
Some sin in that head, that's for sure. So I where there's life, there's hope. Because Iran is a large country, it's a powerful country. They've got a lot of money. If America goes into another deal with them, they'll get a lot more money. Obama was throwing billions of US dollars at them. It's a pretty messed up situation.
Yes, it is. And I just find it interesting that it's streets filled with people there, streets filled with people in Cuba, and where the U.S. is not backing Cuba. I read the other day that Spain is voicing more support for Cuba than the United States is. I don't. Nonetheless, the world is in turmoil.
Yes, for sure.
Those who walk uprightly just keep walking uprightly.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way. Which brings me to a question I've wanted to ask for years? This is a long-term question. And again, I ask because I don't know and I want to know.
Okay.
Laura and I started down the Hebrew root path in 2002. So we've been at this almost 20 years, studying a lot of the writings of rabbinical writers, ancient writers, Rashi, Nachmanides, etc. And among the things that surprised me early on was references to resurrection. What is Judaism's understanding of the resurrection? In our camp, we have some fairly definite mixed up views, but what does Judaism teach about the resurrection?
Okay, well, let me give you the good news and the bad news. The good news is I'll share with you what I know. The bad news is I'm not a rabbi. I am a tour guide. So what I know of now, the term in Hebrew is tchiyat hametim, the revival of the dead.
Okay.
Now, again, it's not an area that I've studied. There are quite a number of areas within Judaism that I have not studied simply because they don't involve me. One of them is the restoration of the dead. I figure by the time it happens to me, it'll either work or it won't work. We believe, to the best of my knowledge, that at the time of the Mashiach, the ultimate final redemption, the righteous of the past will be resurrected. Now, practical question. What are they going to be wearing? They're going to be wearing all those old clothes? Are they going to know who we are? Will we know who they are? You know,
that's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, you know, it's a sense that, let's say your great grandfather is in this group. So you're going to come over to you and say, "Hey, Barry, how are you?" You know, I mean, it's like, you know, people say, you know, like what happens, you know, after death? I have no idea. Haven't been there, haven't done that. Not anxious to experience it. I'll be honest with you. So I really, you know, the good news is, not being a theologian, not being I have little to no idea. Never studied it, never really looked into it. It hasn't captured my fancy because, you see, this is actually, this leads us into a much larger issue. As Christians, your life has been built around right belief. All the various Christian denominations, including Hebrew roots Christianity, is based around right belief.
Okay.
Judaism is based upon right actions. Now, don't misunderstand me. That doesn't mean that all Jews are doing things rightly all the time.
I got to write that.
Yeah. Sure enough.
Equals right belief. Because I mean, I get what you're saying there.
And what that leads into is why, in my chasing around of Ephraim for the last 27 years, since 1994, there's been such an incredible disconnect. Because, like, for instance, last week, Mike and I spoke about the boycott that Ben & Jerry's ice cream has launched against Israel. So I'm calling upon people to boycott not only Ben & Jerry's products, but the parent company, Unilever. But here's a problem. When I speak to Christians, whether they're, you know, consider themselves Ephraimites or not, they're not used to doing stuff. The reason people are always struggling within the Hebrew roots congregations about this one's in error, that's one's in error. It's because they have to believe correctly. Now, they thought they were right when they were Baptists, or when they were Pentecostals, or when they were Methodists. But now they've got a whole new set of right. And it's a challenge for them. So here come the Jews. We don't have, do you know that there's not a single synagogue in the world that has a statement of belief, a list of criteria of things that you need to believe to join that congregation? Not a single one. Not a single one. Okay. That's a real difference. You can, okay, I'll give you a silly example. We do not carry money on Shabbat. We do not use money. We do not carry it. I remember in America being in a Beit Knesset in a synagogue, and there was a guy there that had his hand, it was a nervous habit, hand in his pocket, and he's jingling all his change. And it was absurd to me. He would never think of not going to the Beit Knesset, not going for Shabbat services, never think of not going. But he would also never stop and say, this is an Orthodox synagogue. I shouldn't be doing that. We're not wired that way. We're not wired that you've got to accept these certain beliefs. Again, let me go back to it because it's a really key point. Every single Christian congregation, church, fellowship has a series of criteria and beliefs. And that's why y'all get, I love this term, the left foot of fellowship, agree with the pastor or minister or priest.
You broke up when you said that.
That's why they can say, oh my goodness, the left foot of fellowship. When they will say to you, this isn't the congregation for you, they're basing it on, this is what we believe, you're deviating from those beliefs. We don't have that. We don't have that. And again, we're not wired for belief. Rather, we're wired for action. So when I call up, when we speak about, let's speak about Bina, B'nai Yosef, North America. Okay? Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Why isn't Bina more popular than it is currently? That's because the constituents, Christians who believe themselves to be Ephraim, part of the northern kingdom of Israel, aren't set up to do anything about it. They don't think that way. They're content in their belief. Their Christian beliefs have assured them that they've got all the right stuff and they're going to wind up in the right place at the end of days. Here comes Bina speaking about the national restoration of the northern kingdom of Israel. I get goosebumps just saying that. And that's why people look at us like this.
Yeah.
Because it's like I already believe that. I already have those beliefs. So what do y'all want from me? And the idea of getting together with other congregations to fellowship, then you start getting into turf wars. Well, if we go to a B'nai Yosef North America communal Shabbat gathering once in a month, what's going to happen to my congregation? Where are people going to give their tithes if there's some other entity other than, House of Hanoch, .com, whatever, seriously.
Right.
And that's a struggle that we have. It's a struggle, and when you read the Tanakh, when you read the Nevi'im, the Hebrew prophets, Hashem never said through Yeshayahu, through Isaiah, And one day I am going to reestablish vineyards in Shomron and Samaria. Hashem never promised he would do that. He promised through his prophet that that day would happen, but we had to do it.
Yes.
And it's the perfect example. It's the perfect example. And what's interesting is it's taken not only Jews of tremendous faith to build the vineyards and learn about growing grapes, but it's taken the Christian volunteers of Hayovel to come and assist in the process. The perfect partnership.
Yes.
And together, we have fulfilled biblical prophecy. In that one example alone.
The reason I asked the original question, Hanoch, is that every time that I have been to Israel and stood in Jerusalem and looked out toward the east, just opposite the Kidron Valley, going up the initial slope of the Mount of Olives, all those, I don't know, uncountable number of tombs and graves that are placed there.
Yes.
And 2015, I had the opportunity to walk down from the summit.
Right.
And there was a point in time that I could get close enough, I could take pictures of the tops.
Right.
And I was amazed at the writings and the intricacy of designs that were on, and for those that have not been to Israel, or
not yet,
these are not headstones like we have in America. These are, I guess it's stone boxes that come up. They sit so high up off the ground with a thick stone lid across the top.
Right. That's not a coffin. Just so you know, that's not we don't bury in coffins here in Israel.
Right. Okay.
The deceased is wrapped in a shroud and is buried right in the earth. Okay.
But in
my case, I'll be left in a shoebox, right next to Jaffa Gate. That's why I'm not so worried about. And first of all, it's the resurrection of the righteous. I'm not going to make that cut.
No, come on. We got higher ambitions for you than that. But the word that I really initially received when I saw that entire hillside completely covered is that these were buried there in anticipation of the day of Mashiach.
Absolutely.
And that they want to arise when he comes into that area and goes up through. Now, is it Jewish understanding that the east gate will be opened at that time and he will go through that gate that is currently sealed shut?
Yes. Now, why is the gate sealed shut?
That's a good question.
Okay. The gate is sealed shut because of the Jewish tradition that Mashiach will enter through it. That's why. Okay? Now, again, remember, we're talking about an understanding that predates Christianity by a couple of thousand years.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mashiach will come through the eastern gate. And why was a Muslim cemetery put there?
That was my next question.
Oh, well, I'm so glad I'm here to answer. Because dead carry tum'ah, a ritual impurity.
Right.
And the idea was that ritual impurity would prevent a Jew from walking through it. Now,
that's what I would always anticipate. Yes.
If this particular Jew we're talking about is the Mashiach, is the Messiah, capital H, capital A, the Messiah. This is, end of days. This is, this is the whole enchilada. I wouldn't, that's just me, what can I say? You froze. Oh no. Am I the only unfrozen one?
Now you're back. You were frozen.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I
So if
love when
this
it
is the
says,
Mashiach, and it is the
yeah,
last days, we heard that much.
right. Okay. If you think that stepping over the graves in a Muslim cemetery is going to stop him, y'all are in for a big surprise. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So, yeah.
Either that, or I've thought that he will cause them to rise up and immediately go into judgment. Just my thought.
I'll tell you, as an option B, you know, it's not a bad idea, Barry. I like that. I like that.
Well, let's shift gears just slightly, Hanoch.
Sure.
In the next room, still asleep, are two of my granddaughters. And last night, as they were preparing to go to bed, their Bubby and I said, okay, it's time for bed. Let's sing the Shema. And so both of them, one 4, one is almost 8. No, that's not right. That's not, Charlotte's not almost 8. She can't be almost 8. Is she almost 8? Let's
As
go with
long as we
7.
don't get any older, Barry, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Can't believe that. She's got to be 7. She's almost 7. They sing the Shema. And Laura says, okay. And then Laura started the Aaronic blessing in Hebrew, and they sang along. Hanoch, when they were first born, all 4 of my grandchildren, the first thing they heard from my voice was me holding them this way, their face toward mine. The first thing they heard out of my mouth was the Shema. And with every one of them, their eyes opened, they looked to my lips, and their lips started moving.
Wow.
Now, my understanding is that their soul is most recently from the one Most High who gave them life. I read the rabbinical understanding that when the soul enters into the embryo at the time of the creation of life, that soul has perfect knowledge of Torah. It's after they've hung out with us for a while that they lose that knowledge. So
that is a midrash. That is a midrash. But yes, I have heard it. Yes.
So
that they're all knowing and all wise.
as bad as my accent would be in Hebrew to sing the Shema, they immediately responded. I'm thinking in my mind that they know the words that I'm saying because they had just recently come from Him.
Wow.
And then the second thing that they hear is the Aaronic blessings pronounced over them. Before I ever call their name, before I ever address them in any other way, goo goo gaga, they hear those that ancient prayer and the ancient blessing pronounced over them. And without fail, all 4 have visually and to the best of their ability verbally responded.
It's amazing.
Now, congregations the world over use the Shema daily. Mike Clayton has gotten a Facebook page up where people who recite the Shema at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., the time of the tradition of the morning evening offerings.
Correct.
We're saying that. There are congregations that, with all full intent of the heart, are announcing the Aaronic blessing. We may not be Levites, but we want the people to hear that prayer, that blessing, and understand what the word says. There are congregations, when I was at Revive a few weeks ago, Rico Cortez was doing the morning Shabbat liturgy
Right.
and explaining the importance of each part. And there were almost 1,000 people there. And when he went through, he said, okay, we're going to sing this, and it's in Hebrew. And he was chanting the Hebrew. There was a significant part of the audience that knew that liturgy already, and you could hear them singing right along with him.
Wow.
I know it's not common knowledge to the vast majority of people in Israel and among the house of Yehuda. What would be the response? Is it, why are they using our stuff? Is it a problem, or would it perhaps say something to them? The restoration, the redemption can't be that far away. If even the nations are turning their hearts toward the things that are set apart and recognizing that they are so.
Okay. Well, this is the classic case of, here in Israel, the Jewish population is about 6,850,000. So there's probably about 13 to 14 million opinions amongst us.
At least.
At least. I would like to think that the vast majority would be wowed by it. And I think they would be. The question, of course, would always come up of, so where are they going with this? You have to remember, after 2,000 years of experiencing what we could put in air quotes as Christian love, like, don't love us. Take your hands off my throat, get the knife away from my head. And, so it's interesting. It's also interesting that generally within the Hebrew Roots movement, there is quite a bit of anti-Semitism, quite a bit of replacement theology. And I can tell you from personal experience over the last 27 years.
Yeah.
That's the bad news. The good news is I would like to believe and feel that that's changing even to a small degree. I would like to think that the people that were at Revive, that you met, that you saw, that you heard, that you worshiped with, are among those that are initiating the change. It's hard for me to be impartial about it, where me and I don't say this with any pride, I say this sadly, I am the only, still, after all this time, still crazy after all these years, yeah, but I'm the only Jew chasing after Ephraim for all this time based on mutual respect without trying to get anybody to change anything. It would be nice to think that my brothers on the Ephraimite side of the family, my brothers and sisters, would be willing to accept me on that level too. I can tell you that we're not even close. But again, I'd like to think that we're getting better and better each day, maybe. I'd like to think that.
I am seeing some, I had to be honest with you, this time last year, I was personally much more pessimistic, a bit disheartened and wondering, Father, how are you going to do this? I'm not seeing the change necessary. In the last year, I don't know what COVID may or may not have had anything to do with that. Maybe people who could not fellowship together in person learned to appreciate more of what they had and understand a little more what exile is all about, the hardship aspect of it. I mean,
it's a great point.
If you tell people in America you're in exile, they say, what are you talking about? My life is great. now the frustrations of things have set in enough that people are saying, wait a minute, wait a minute. This is not the country I signed on for. And we're beginning to look beyond borders just a little bit and wonder, where else can I go? And there is nowhere else to go, not until Mashiach comes and changes things. So our bitterness in our mouths, the frustrations have turned to prayers. Hanoch, I'm seeing a little change of heart. The arguments that I have regularly seen online have stopped for the vast majority of the times. And people are becoming otherwise focused. It's taken a lot of prayer, a lot of instruction, a lot of calls from leadership to get our act together, and a lot of modeling. That's what B'nai Yosef is all about, is modeling.
Right.
And as you said about the difference between belief and behavior and action, that's our point. You may believe differently than we do on various tenets of your preference, pronunciations and versions and practices. You may differ with us, and that's fine. But we agree that we're going to behave scripturally toward each other. No, we're not going to engage in Lashon Hara. I'm not going to call you by names that you don't choose for yourself. I'm going to give you the benefit of a doubt. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to, until you prove otherwise, we're going to walk together. We're going to do what we can. And we agree that these are the tenets of behavior. Recognizing belief is there. It's important, but our behavior has to change.
Yeah, that's very true.
But it's
very true.
It's beginning to happen a bit. I was so pleasantly surprised at Revive. I drove 10 and a half hours home with my mouth hung open.
That's great.
I thought it had been reported to me previously that it was pretty much a rah-rah can event. No one trotting out their latest, greatest sermon, teaching, thought pattern, etc. next. But it wasn't like that. What I saw was different. And those that had been there before were saying it's different, better, different. We've taken a turn and it's heading in the right direction here. And for that, all I can say is we're in a season that the end of the season could indeed culminate with Mashiach. And may it be so, and may it be in our day.
Well, and we should be spending every minute thinking what we can do to make that moment a reality.
Amen. I agree.
So, it's been tough being kept away from America since February of 2020. It's been even tougher not being able to work since March of 2020. But my hope and prayer is that I'll be able to be back in America, Be'ezrat Hashem, with Hashem's help, December, maybe around Hanukkah time, live from Modi'in, our own little personal Maccabee, Hanoch, I don't know. A lot to share, a lot of encouragement. This is the time to, kind of pull in the belt a little bit and, move forward. We can keep looking behind us. We can keep regretting. We can keep pointing, this isn't right. This isn't perfect, but it's a chance. You're right. It's a chance. And it may be the last chance for this generation.
It may be indeed. Well, Hanoch, before you go.
Yes.
What's this? You want to talk to Hanoch? I don't think I should let you talk to Hanoch. Do you promise to behave? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna let him in here just for a second. Hold on.
Oh, no. Oh, Lord have mercy. We know what's about to happen. It's like watching a car accident about to unfold. If only y'all knew what I know is about to happen. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Brother Henry Cook, is that you? Lord, boy, do you know how long it's been? I've been thinking about you. I was just dreaming about you last night because I won't tell you what I dreamed. I've missed you, Brother Henry Cook, because I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, Brother Henry Cook, I got me a hog out there. She only goes about 750 pounds right now. She's still a growing. But her name's Maud.
Mode.
Maud the hog. And she's a right smart old girl. I got to tell you that.
Okay.
So far, I taught her to grunt the ABCs, believe it or not. And you might ask, well, how do you know what she's grunting? It's by the tune that she grunts them to. She knows the tune to the ABC.
Of course.
And then if I ask her, what's 1 + 1, she'll take her hoof and she'll go twice in the dirt. Proves to me that she's a pretty old, smart girl. I have not only taught her how to chew bubble gum, but to blow bubbles. That hog, I guarantee you, she can blow bubbles bigger than I can.
That's pretty special.
So here's my question.
Okay.
I've been studying with Brother Mike Clayton, and he has taught me the most wonderful things. What a brilliant feller he is, especially when it comes to hogs. Brother Mike says that the reason that a hog ain't kosher is because it don't chew the cud.
That's part of the reason, yes.
Okay. Since my hog Maud is so smart, I've been trying to get her to learn to chew the cud because I want to kosherize that old girl. And I'm thinking that if I can get that hog to chew the cud, then I'll have a kosher hog. Now, so far, all I've got, she looked at me and tilted her head a couple times. But so far, all I've been able to get her to do is burp. Well, if I can get burping down to chewing the cud, I might not have the first kosher hog that's ever lived, but I'll have the first kosher hog that's ever been able to blow bubbles.
Could very well be.
Brother Henry Cook, I knew you would help me out with this. Is there anything I can do in your estimation that I can get that hog to chew the cud? Maybe get her to hang out with cud chewing animals.
That would be a good idea. Considering the extent of what I know about animals in general, not the ones that walk upright on two legs, allegedly people, but no, I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed that you can't help me out because you trust me, the expert. Not that I would ever eat the animal being kosher, at least maybe one leg at a time or something like that. But, well, I'd like to market me some kosherized hogs. I just think it would change the world. We could feed the world with clean meat, with bubble gum chewing, bubble blowing kosherized hogs. I appreciate your
We'll
help on
see.
it.
We will see.
Well, you can write me at Cletus Claiborne, Grassy Creek, and I'll get the mail and you help me out.
Sure enough.
What do you mean? I can't talk to him no more? I ain't finished talking to him. I'm looking, they're fussing at me.
Sorry. Oh, oh.
I'm sorry. I don't know how he got in here.
No, I don't know either. It was it wasn't as bad
I
as when
apologize to the world and all right there.
it wasn't as bad as when he met me at the Richmond airport. And the best part of that are the people that were standing around watching it, just kind of like, like nothing wrong with that,
Well,
nothing to look at, keep moving.
I pray the rest of your remaining day is pleasant
Thank
and filled with
you.
wisdom and insight, health and security.
Amen.
May the Iron Dome be in place.
Indeed.
And the hand of the Most High be over you. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Barry. Take care.
You too, brother. Shalom.
Shalom. Bye-bye.